Okay, so you're thinking about architecture. Huh. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's definitely a field that has that wow factor. But like with any big life decision, you want to make sure you're going in with both eyes open. And that's what we're here for. This time on our deep dive, we're taking a look at architecture based on this awesome YouTube video you sent us by architect Emily.
Yeah, she's great.
And it's packed with real-world insights,
Yeah.
like stuff you just won't find in any college brochure.
No, definitely not. It's refreshing how Damley doesn't try to sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
She gets into the nitty-gritty of what it's really like to work in architecture.
Exactly.
From the challenges to the moments that make it all worthwhile.
Totally. And one of the things that really stood out to me was this whole time warp thing. She talks about, in architecture school, you're cranking out projects every semester,
Right.
which is great. You get to try a little bit of everything. But then you hit the real world,
Yeah.
and BAM projects can take years.
Yeah, it's a huge adjustment.
It is.
Imagine this. You pour your heart and soul into a design. And then you might spend the next 2 years, maybe even more, just working on tiny details, coordinating with contractors, dealing with unexpected hiccups. That's where passion and resilience really come into play.
It's so true. It's like running a marathon versus a sprint.
Exactly.
And you know what? It actually reminds me of this friend of mine who landed this amazing job at this prestigious firm right out of school.
Wow.
They were so excited to be designing these cutting-edge buildings.
Oh, yeah.
But then they quickly realized that most of their time was spent on, like, door handle specifications.
Yeah.
And making sure the plumbing worked.
Right, right. Because architecture isn't just about sketching those beautiful facades. It's also about understanding all the complex systems that make a building functional, safe, and sustainable.
Absolutely.
It's all in the details.
Yeah, for sure. But it's definitely something to consider if you're someone who thrives on constant change.
Right.
And, like, instant gratification.
Yeah, that fast pace.
Yeah.
It's just not always the reality.
And that actually leads us to another really important point that Damley made teamwork.
Yes, huge.
In school, it's often like a solo mission, But in the professional world, it's all about collaboration.
Big time architects, engineers, clients, contractors, city planners, everyone has a stake in the project.
Takes a village.
It really does. And you need to be able to communicate effectively, negotiate different perspectives, and sometimes even compromise your own artistic vision to make sure everything works together.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you end up with, disasters.
Yeah.
I once saw this project where the architect designed this incredible curved staircase,
Oh.
but they didn't really factor in the space needed for the HVAC system. Let's just say.
Right.
It wasn't pretty.
You need all those different teams on the same page, communicating clearly. That's a crucial skill for any architect. And this whole idea of collaboration, it also ties into the next big thing. Damley talks about constraints.
Ah, yes, the dreaded budget.
Right. It's no secret that artistic vision often clashes headfirst with the reality of money. Damley doesn't shy away from that at all. She talks about how you might find yourself designing for maximum return on investment per square foot. Right. Instead of just pure aesthetics.
Yeah, that can be a tough pill to swallow for some aspiring architects.
It can, but here's the thing.
Good.
Constraints, while often frustrating, can actually spark incredible creativity.
Interesting.
Think about it. Some of the most iconic buildings in the world were born out of limitations.
Well, that's a good point.
Whether it's a difficult site,
Right.
a tight budget, or strict zoning regulations,
Yeah.
those challenges force architects to think outside the box and come up with innovative solutions.
So it's like turning those limitations into opportunities.
Exactly.
Kind of like how some of the best music comes from artists who only had like 3 chords and a broken drum to work with.
I like that, yeah. That's a great mindset to have in architecture because, let's face it, you'll rarely have unlimited resources.
That's true. And speaking of thinking outside the box, Damley also talks about the huge range of specialties within architecture.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just designing skyscrapers.
No.
You could specialize in sustainable design,
Right.
historic preservation, healthcare architecture. There's a whole world of options out there.
Right. She mentions everything from designing swimming pools
Yes.
to like planning entire cityscapes.
Exactly. That's where doing your research comes in. It's not just about going to the most famous architecture school or working for the biggest firm.
Sort of.
It's about finding your niche, the area of architecture that truly excites you,
Yeah,
and then seeking out firms or mentors who specialize in that field.
that makes total sense.
You'll learn so much more,
Yeah.
and you'll be way more likely to build a fulfilling career that actually aligns with your passions.
Yeah, I get that. Because, like, working for a starchitect might sound glamorous.
Yeah.
But if you're stuck designing parking garages all day, it's not going to be very fulfilling.
Exactly. It's about finding the right fit.
Yeah, and that brings us to another point that Damali really emphasizes, the importance of getting licensed.
Yes. So
It's not just a piece of paper.
No, not at all. It's a symbol of your expertise. And honestly, it opens up a world of possibilities.
She's really adamant about that, isn't she?
She is, and for good reason. In most places, you can't legally call yourself an architect or stamp construction documents without a license.
Oh, wow.
And getting licensed involves passing a rigorous exam called the Architect Registration Examination, or R for short.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It's a multi-part exam that tests your knowledge on everything from building codes and structural systems to professional practice and project management.
That sounds intense.
It is, but it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You're responsible for people's safety, so you really need to know your stuff.
For sure. And beyond the legal stuff, getting licensed has tangible benefits for your career too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like for starters, licensed architects typically command higher salaries.
Okay, that makes sense.
They also have more autonomy and can take on leadership roles within firms.
Right.
Plus, if you ever want to start your own practice,
Yeah.
having a license is absolutely essential.
So it's not just about bragging rights.
No.
It's about opening doors
Yeah.
and having more control over your career path.
Exactly. And speaking of career paths,
Yeah.
let's talk about the elephant in the room. Money.
Oh.
Damali's very upfront about the fact that architects don't exactly make lawyer money right out of the gate.
That's something a lot of people don't realize going in.
Yeah, but it's important to view this as an investment.
All right.
The early years of your career are all about building your skills and establishing yourself in the field. You might start out as an intern or a junior architect, earning a modest salary, but those experiences are so valuable.
Yeah, I can see that.
They really lay the foundation for your long-term success.
So it's like paying your dues
Yeah,
and learning the ropes
exactly.
before you hit the big time.
Yes, and while those early years might not be the most lucrative, there are ways to supplement your income and gain valuable experience at the same time.
Okay, like what?
Well, you could consider taking on freelance projects,
All right.
teaching design classes, or even volunteering for community projects.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Not only will this boost your income, but it'll also help you expand your network, develop new skills, and build your portfolio.
That's a really great point. So it's not just about chasing a paycheck.
No,
It's about building a career you love.
right, absolutely. The financial rewards will follow. It's like planting a seed, you nurture it, you give it time to grow,
I love that.
and eventually it blossoms into something truly remarkable.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
We talked about the time warp between school and the real world, the importance of teamwork and communication, how to embrace constraints as creative fuel, the diverse world of architectural specialties, and the value of getting licensed.
All important stuff.
Oh, and we even tackled the money question.
Huge.
We did. And while we've only just scratched the surface of the architectural world, I think we've given you a much more realistic and well-rounded perspective than you'd get from a glossy brochure or a quick Google search. For sure.
Yeah.
But hey, this is just the beginning of your journey.
It is.
So we're back
Yeah.
and ready to go even deeper into this whole architecture thing.
Let's do it.
Last time, we talked about, what it's actually like to work in the field, the pace of projects,
Right.
teamwork, constraints, all those different specialties you can pursue. But let's get real for a sec. How do you actually find your place in this massive, complex industry?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's something that Damali talks about a lot in her video.
Sure.
She's a huge advocate for finding mentors.
Mentors.
Yeah, and building relationships with other architects.
Okay, so why is that so important?
Yeah.
Can't you just, learn everything you need to know from books and classes?
Well, yeah. You can definitely get a solid theoretical foundation that way. But architecture is also very hands-on. It's experiential. There's a certain wisdom that comes from actually being in the trenches,
Right.
dealing with real-world projects and all the curveballs that come with them. And that's where mentors come in.
Right. So it's like having someone who's been there, done that,
Exactly.
to guide you
Yeah.
and share their, insider insights.
A good mentor can offer invaluable advice on everything, From navigating the licensing process to finding the right firm culture for you,
Oh, that's interesting.
they can open doors to opportunities that you might not even know existed.
Wow, that's huge.
It really is.
It's like having a secret weapon in your back pocket.
Exactly. And Damali actually shares some great tips on how to find a mentor.
Okay, I'm all ears.
She suggests reaching out to architects whose work you admire,
Okay.
attending industry events, and even connecting with alumni from your architecture school.
So it's all about being proactive and putting yourself out there.
Exactly. And it's
Right.
not just about finding one perfect mentor either.
Yeah.
You can have multiple mentors throughout your career,
Interesting.
each offering different perspectives and different expertise.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like building your own personal board of advisors?
Exactly.
I like that.
And along with mentorship, networking is another crucial part of building a successful career in architecture.
Networking. I feel like networking can be so, I don't know, forced and awkward sometimes.
I hear you. Networking definitely has a reputation,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be slimy or transactional. You know,
Okay.
it's really just about building genuine relationships with people in your field. It's about sharing ideas, learning from each other, and supporting each other's work.
It's more about collaboration than competition.
Exactly. It's about building a community around your shared passion for architecture.
Yeah, I like that a lot better.
And you never know, the person you chat with at a conference today could become your future business partner or client.
That's true. It takes the pressure off a bit.
Yeah,
You know?
it does. It's not about trying to impress everyone in the room. It's about having meaningful conversations
Yeah,
and connecting with people who share your interests.
I can get behind that.
Yeah?
And you can start building those relationships now,
Oh, absolutely.
even while you're still in school.
Yeah, for sure. Join student organizations.
Okay.
Go to lectures.
Mm-hmm.
Volunteer for design competitions.
Those are all good ideas.
All great ways to meet people
All right.
and start building your network.
Cool. And it's not just about what other people can do for you either.
Yeah,
Right?
no, not at all. It's also about what you can offer to others.
That's a good point.
Share your knowledge, support your peers, be generous with your time and your resources.
It's about building a strong foundation of mutual support and respect.
Exactly. But you know, while we're talking about building a career,
Yeah.
I think it's important to talk about the ethical considerations that come with it, you know?
Well, yes.
Architects face a lot of ethical dilemmas.
Right, because designing buildings, it's not just about aesthetics and functionality.
No, it's not.
It's about impacting people's lives
Exactly.
and shaping the built environment
Yeah.
in a responsible and ethical way.
Architects have a responsibility to their clients, of course.
Right.
But also to the public, to the environment,
Mhm.
and even to future generations.
There's a lot to think about.
It is. So it's about balancing all those different interests, you know, and making decisions that benefit everyone, not just the people writing the checks.
Right, so like what are some of the ethical dilemmas that architects actually grapple with?
Well, there are a lot. For example, an architect might have to consider the environmental impact of using certain building materials,
Oh, yeah.
or the social implications of designing a luxury apartment complex
Right.
in a low-income neighborhood.
Wow, those are some heavy considerations.
They are, and those ethical dilemmas can get really complex, especially when you start to factor in things like sustainability, accessibility, cultural sensitivity, historical preservation.
So how do architects actually navigate all of that? Is there like an ethics handbook they can follow?
Well, there are professional codes of ethics
Right.
that provide guidelines, but ultimately it comes down to individual judgment
Right.
and having a strong moral compass.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's something that architects have to grapple with throughout their careers, I imagine, because every project is different.
It is. Every project, it presents its own unique set of challenges.
It's like being a detective,
Uh-huh. Kinda.
but for design, you know?
I like that. You have to gather all the evidence, weigh the options, and make the best decision you can based on the information you have.
Exactly. And sometimes you don't have all the answers, right? You might have to make tough calls, knowing that there's no perfect solution.
So it's about being thoughtful,
Yes,
informed, and willing to have those difficult conversations.
exactly. And it's also about being transparent
Okay.
with your clients, your collaborators, and the public about the choices you're making and why.
So ethical design isn't just about following the rules.
Right.
It's about having this deep understanding of the impact your work has on the world.
Yes.
And making decisions that align with your values.
You got it.
Yeah.
And it's a continuous learning process. The more you learn about the social, environmental, and cultural contexts of your work, the better equipped you'll be to make ethical decisions that truly benefit everyone.
That's really insightful. It speaks to the power of architecture.
It does. To shape our world for the better.
It absolutely does. And it's a responsibility that architects should take very seriously.
For sure. But even with all the complexities and challenges, there's something incredibly rewarding
Oh, yeah.
about designing spaces that enhance people's lives and create a more beautiful, functional, and sustainable world.
Absolutely.
And that's the passion that shines through in Damelie's video.
It does.
It's something that I think a lot of aspiring architects can really relate to. But I think it's also important to remember that architects aren't superhuman.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in that romantic vision of the architect as this solitary genius.
A lone wolf.
Yeah. But the reality is, it's a collaborative profession. It requires teamwork, it requires communication, and a healthy dose of humility.
For sure. So while we've talked about the importance of mentors and building a strong network, I think it's also crucial to find a supportive community of peers who can relate to your struggles and celebrate your wins.
Oh, absolutely. It's like having a team of cheerleaders. Totally.
Who are rooting for you every step of the way.
It makes such a difference.
It really does. And that kind of support can make all the difference when you're facing those inevitable moments of doubt or burnout.
It's not just about emotional support either.
No, it's not. It's about having people you can bounce ideas off of, get feedback from, learn from. It's about fostering a culture of collaboration and shared learning.
So it's like building a tribe of like-minded individuals.
Exactly.
Who share your passion for architecture.
Yes.
And are committed to making a positive impact on the world.
You got it. That kind of community can be an incredible source of strength, inspiration, and support throughout your whole architectural journey.
That's awesome. But as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I think it's important to address something that often gets overlooked in discussions about architecture. Okay, what's that?
Failure.
Ooh, that's a heavy word.
It is. It's an inevitable part of any creative process.
And especially in architecture, You're going to make mistakes. Your designs aren't always going to be perfect.
That's true.
You're going to face rejection. You're going to face criticism.
It's part of the process.
It is. So how do you deal with that? Rejection can be brutal, especially when you've poured your heart and soul into a project.
Oh, yeah. It stings.
It does. But it's important to reframe failure as a learning opportunity.
Okay.
Every setback, every criticism, every no you receive is a chance to grow, to improve your skills, to refine your vision.
So it's all about embracing that fail-forward mentality.
Exactly. And it's about developing resilience, that ability to bounce back from setbacks, to learn from your mistakes, and just keep moving forward. That's essential for any architect.
So it's not about avoiding failure.
Nope.
It's about learning how to navigate it and use it as fuel for growth.
Precisely. And, failure can also be a catalyst for innovation.
Oh.
Some of the most groundbreaking architectural designs have emerged from the ashes of failed projects.
It's like that saying, necessity is the mother of invention.
Exactly. When you're forced to confront limitations and overcome obstacles, you often discover new solutions and push the boundaries of what's possible.
I like that. And that's the beauty of architecture, isn't it?
It is.
It's a constant process of experimentation, innovation, and evolution.
You said it.
So even though failure is inevitable,
it's
not the end of the world.
No, it's just a detour on the road to success.
I love that. A detour that can actually lead to some pretty amazing discoveries.
It can.
Well, that's a great note to end on. We've covered so much in this part of our deep dive.
We have.
From mentors and networks to ethical design and the power of embracing failure.
Hugh, it's a lot.
It is. But there's still so much more to explore.
Right. We could talk for hours about the history of architecture, the different architectural styles, the impact of technology on the field.
Or we could dive into the specific challenges and rewards of different architectural specialties.
Yes.
Like designing hospitals or schools or even spaceships.
Why not? The possibilities are endless. But for now, I think we've given you a solid foundation to continue your own exploration of the architectural world.
Absolutely. And we encourage you to keep asking questions, seeking out mentors, and building relationships with other architects.
Because ultimately, the best way to learn about architecture is to experience it firsthand.
So true. So get out there, explore, experiment, and don't be afraid to fail. Who knows? You might just design the next architectural masterpiece. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our architecture deep dive. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? We've talked about everything from like the day-to-day grind of being an architect to the importance of finding mentors and, oh yeah, those ethical dilemmas that come with designing buildings.
It's a lot to consider.
It is. But before we wrap things up, I think it's worth circling back to something we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
All the different paths you can take in this field.
Oh, absolutely. Architecture is so diverse. It's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of career.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We talked about specializing, but I feel like we haven't really explored what those specialties actually look like in action.
Right. It's one thing to say, oh, you could be a sustainable architect.
Yeah.
But it's a whole other thing to understand what that actually means on a day-to-day basis.
Totally. So let's paint a picture for our listener.
Okay, I like that.
Let's say they're really intrigued by the idea of sustainable design.
Right.
What might their day-to-day actually look like?
Well, a sustainable architect is all about minimizing the environmental impact of buildings.
Okay.
So they would be spending a lot of time researching and selecting eco-friendly materials, designing energy-efficient systems,
Right.
and incorporating things like solar panels and rainwater harvesting into their designs.
So it's about thinking holistically, right?
Yes, it's not just about the building itself,
Okay.
but about its relationship to the surrounding environment.
They're kind of like environmental superheroes in a way.
I like that.
Yeah.
They might even collaborate with landscape architects to create green spaces that promote biodiversity and reduce those urban heat islands.
That's so cool. It's like designing for both people and the planet at the same time.
Exactly, and that's just one example.
Right.
Let's say our listener is more drawn to historical preservation.
Okay.
Their days might involve poring over old blueprints, carefully restoring crumbling facades,
Wow.
or adapting historic structures to meet modern needs.
That sounds fascinating.
It is. It's like being an architectural detective, uncovering the secrets of the past and bringing them back to life.
And what if their passion lies in healthcare architecture? What would that look like?
Well, in that case, they'd be focused on creating healing environments that prioritize patient well-being and staff efficiency. Imagine designing a hospital wing that's flooded with natural light and features calming gardens.
Oh, I love that.
Or a children's hospital with playful, interactive spaces that help reduce anxiety.
Wow, that's powerful. It shows how architects can have a direct impact on people's health and well-being.
Absolutely. And these are just a few examples.
I know, right?
There are architects who specialize in everything, from designing schools that foster creativity to crafting urban spaces that promote social interaction.
It's amazing how much variety there is.
It is. And I think that's something worth reflecting on as you start to envision your own architectural journey.
Totally. Don't get too caught up in the technical stuff or the prestige of certain firms.
Right.
Think about the kind of impact you want to make with your designs.
What problems are you passionate about solving? What kind of spaces do you want to create? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
Those are some big questions.
They are, but they get to the heart of what it means to be an architect, you know?
Because at the end of the day, architecture is about so much more than just bricks and mortar.
It is. It's about shaping the world we live in, creating spaces that inspire us, connect us, uplift us.
It's about using your creativity and ingenuity to make a real difference.
Absolutely. And that's a pretty incredible thing to be a part of.
It really is. Well, I think that about wraps it up for our architecture deep dive. We hope you learned a thing or two and maybe even feel a little more excited about the possibilities of a career in architecture.
We had a great time exploring this with you. Remember, the world needs your unique vision and your passion for design. So keep dreaming big, keep learning, keep exploring, and most importantly, never stop asking questions.
And that's a wrap on our show. Thanks for joining us on this architectural adventure. We'll catch you next time.